Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies? I'm out of here. I like running better. Welcome back, YouTube viewers, to another video. Alright, so recently the success of Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, which is really good by the way, you should play it if you can, has gotten me thinking, now that we've gotten the ultimate Sonic racing game, a genre that, well, wasn't completely dead. I mean, we had Team Sonic Racing 6 years ago. That game was not successful at all. But getting such a great racing game for the series has made me think, when are we going to get a really good Sonic fighting game? There have not been as many Sonic fighting games as there have been racing games. I mean, when it comes to the racing games, there were the two Drift games in the 90s, Sonic R, um, the Riders trilogy, the Sumo Digital trilogy, and now Racing Cross Worlds. That's 10 games. But for fighting, we only had Sonic Fighters, which was an arcade exclusive in Japan in 1997, until it got ported to the US in 2012. Although it's still pretty hard to play. It got delisted from Steam, it got delisted from the Xbox Live Store, I think. You can only play if you buy a huge bundle of Sonic games on those sites. Anyway, aside from that, we got Sonic Battle for the Game Boy Advance in 2003, and that is it. So, I haven't played either of these games, but from what I've seen of them, when I've heard of them, it goes like this. Sonic the Fighters is a fun arcade game, but it also introduced Bean and Bark. But it's an arcade game. There's from 1997. There's not that much to it. Sonic Battle is a really in-depth story, some good music, some really cool art style, and it's a pretty decently long game. But it's very repetitive and not the best to play. Also, it's like a 2D fighting game in 3D backgrounds in on the Game Boy Advance. That was just never really gonna work. So I'm gonna lay out what I'd want to see for a Sonic fighting game. This video isn't gonna be super long, but let's just go with it. Okay, let's do it to it and dive on in. Go over the base roster, part one. I don't really know how to explain each character's in-depth moveset, so I'll just get through that quickly. Sonic. He can maybe, spin dash, homing attack. Maybe have a double jump. I don't know. Maybe have some kind of light dash as an attack. Like there'd be rings around the arenas that would refill a health bar, and Sonic could spin dash into his enemies. Something like that'd be cool. Tails could fly. Attack enemies with his tails. Maybe throw dummy ring bombs like in Sonic 06 and Heroes. I don't know. Okay. Knuckles would probably be the most fun character in a game like this. He could punch, he could glide, he could climb walls. You wouldn't want to make him too powerful though, because then everyone would just use Knuckles all the time. Shadow would pretty much play the same as Sonic, except he'd have a Chaos Spear instead of a Sonic Wind, assuming Sonic even has that. And maybe he wouldn't have a Light Dash to just make him a bit more unique from Sonic. Maybe you could let him teleport. I don't know, it's kind of a special attack. Rouge would basically play the same as Knuckles, except instead of punching enemies, she'd kick them. Omega would basically play the same as Knuckles as well, except he wouldn't be able to climb, but maybe he'd be able to punch harder, be faster. I don't know. Silver, Silver could, not fly, but he could hover a bit. He could toss things at his enemies. Maybe he could have some kind of psychic blast he could shoot. That'd be cool. Blaze would be kind of similar, except maybe she'd have a spin dash like Sonic and Shadow, because, speed character. Metal Sonic would just be a Sonic clone. I don't have anything to add to that. Eggman would be in his mech, from SA2. He could just shoot at enemies, maybe fly around a bit. Second part of the base roster, not Vector, punches guys with his fists and tail. Maybe he's sturdier than other characters, but he is a bit slower. You could do that. SBO, yeah, be kind of a Sonic clone, except he could hit enemies with his kunai, which is that ninja knife he has. Maybe he couldn't do a spin dash. Charmy could fly around, hit enemies with his stinger. Maybe he'd be weaker because he's smaller, but he would have be harder to hit by an enemy. Amy be kind of a combat character with her hammer, like the other chaotix, or other chaotix, like the chaotix. Amy's not part of the chaotix. Cream would use cheese and like fling at enemies like in the advanced games. Probably end up. But maybe Cheese should be nerfed a bit because he was way too overpowered in the advanced games. Big could probably, jump on enemies, use his fishing rod to pull them apart or something. Chaos and Tikal I'm included as part of the base roster because not only do I want it to be fleshed out a bit more, but also, they were included in the battle mode of SA2, so I figured, you know what? Why not throw in Chaos and Tikal as part of the base roster? That'd be cool. Post-launch characters, like Season Pass or something, I don't know. Maybe they could just be added to the game for free as it continues to exist. Babylon Rogues and Orbot and Cubot. I'm not really sure how Orbot and Cubot would attack enemies, but I'm sure you could figure up something for them. They're the only characters who are missing from Cross Worlds, honestly. It's too bad that we've gone 2 racing games in a row where we have, instead of having Orbot and Cubot, we have an egg pawn. Just a single egg pawn. How would the Babylon Rogues play, though? I don't know. I mean, obviously they'd be able to fly because of their hoverboards. But other than that, I'm not really sure what they'd do, but I'm sure you could figure out something for them. I'm not a game developer, but it'd be cool to have them. Other characters, Styx from Sonic Boom, and no, this game is not canon to the timeline River. Styx, I love Styx, but she does not make sense in the Sonic game timeline. Anyway, I just think it'd be cool to have Styx there. I guess she could throw her boomerang at enemies. Maybe have that bow staff she has in Season 2, which, since I've watched Sonic Boom so many times, I can tell you that in Season 1, Styx always uses a boomerang, but in Season 2, she almost always uses a bow staff, like Donatello from Ninja Turtles. You could have Mighty and Ray. Maybe you could have some kind of tag team system, and they'd be one of the default tag teams. You could probably mix and match, but yeah, they do one of the default tag teams, because Mighty and Ray, they're like brothers, sort of. Brothers in arms, I should say. Mighty would be one of the more power type characters. Maybe he wouldn't be that much like Vector. Maybe he wouldn't be fast, but he'd take damage really well and take a long time to defeat, and he'd be really strong. Ray could probably play like Charmy, where he doesn't do much damage, but he can fly around and is harder to hit. Other characters, Bark, yeah, like Vector. Bean, I don't know. I feel like Bean should be a kind of character where he can do a lot of damage because of his bombs, which you ideally would want to be able to throw a ton of times, but they wouldn't do that much damage. I'm not really sure how he'd make Bean play. Infinite? Infinite. I definitely want him here, but I'm kind of trying to figure out how I haven't really fully thought through how he would even work in a fighting game. I guess maybe he could trap enemies in a bunch of cubes made from the Phantom Ruby, like the whole weird cubes that you always see in Sonic Forces that he creates. I don't know, that's an idea. He could fly, I guess. Mephiles would probably be able to create clones of himself, like in Sonic 06, and they could confuse enemies or something like that. And then you could wind up for the hit. Maybe you could have him you could have some kind of special attack where you turn into a giant monster. I don't know. Black Doom would probably be pretty simple. Just something like he flies around and let's give him eye lasers. Why not? That's a cool idea. Knack would have his trusty blaster, and can we give him a blaster, please? And yeah, I want him to be in his modern design. I really don't like they made him a classic-only character. And gave him that stupid pop gun. I understand they're not going to give him a realistic gun. They couldn't even give him a Star Wars-esque blaster or something. With lasers. That's what I would do. Now for each of the arenas. I'd represent most mainline Sonic games. I'm not going to represent Sonic Lost World and Forces, I'll just say that, because not only do they not have much originality to them, it's just, I don't think too many people would be mad if I missed Sonic Lost World and Forces. So Sonic 1 arenas, Green Hill and Starlight Zone. The 2 best zones from the game and the 2 most iconic. Sonic 2, Chemical Plant Casino Night. Yeah, same, the most iconic. We also don't see Casino Night reused very often, which I always found to be kind of strange considering how recognizable it is. And I just really want to hear a remix of that music. I love the Casino Night music. Sonic CD would only get 1 arena. Sorry, CD fans. I'm not much of a Sonic CD fan, and there are only so many arenas you could include. So just at least for a base game before DLC gets inevitably included, let's just say we have Stardust Speedway for now. For Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Sky Sanctuary and Ice Cap. I'm sure Sega would love to reuse Sky Sanctuary because they have so many HD assets of it. And can I just say it's strange that Sky Sanctuary is not in Sonic Racing Cross Worlds? Sonic Adventure, Emerald Coast, and Red Mountain. And I used this screenshot of Red Mountain because I'd like to see the second section of that level, where you drop into the volcano and you hear this really crazy rock and roll sound where you see guys in cages. Boy, what a weird level. Emerald Coast, maybe you could see in Emerald Coast Arena, maybe you could see the whale that chases Sonic, like jumping across the water in the background or something. Maybe there could be some kind of arena hazard where all of a sudden the whale would fall onto the arena and it would break and there'd be less platforms. I think that'd be cool. Sonic Adventure 2. You gotta include City Escape and I'll say Metal Harbor as well. I know Metal Harbor is a bit reused, but come on, it's Metal Harbor. If I had another option, maybe I'd say Pyramid Cave. Maybe you could do Radical Highway. After all, it is just so cool. Much like I said with the whale and Emerald Coast from SA1, maybe you could do the same thing with the gun track in SA2 and City Escape. You're playing through a City Escape arena and then BAM! A truck runs through the arena and destroys it. That'd be cool. Sonic Heroes. Frog Forest, because you need some jungle areas. Don't see too many of those. And then Egg Fleet. I'm not including Seaside Hill because if you want a beachside level, we already have Emerald Coast. And Seaside Hill is the second most overused level in the entire series. How is Egg Fleet not the one in Generations? And I mean both Sonic and Shadow. I guess I kind of understand Shadow Generations because, they picked Rail Canyon because that's when Shadow figures out about the Shadow androids, but in Sonic Generations, you'd think they would have included the awesome final level that is Egg Fleet. I don't know. That's what I would include. Shadow the Hedgehog. Yeah, I mean, no secret I hate the Shadow the Hedgehog game, but it's a mainline game. It's got some unique levels. Got to include some. Westopolis, just I guess to make up for the fact that it wasn't in Shadow Generations, and the Black Comet, which should have been the final level. Sonic 06. Kingdom Valley and Crisis City. Yes, we've seen them before, but come on, they're awesome. And it would be easier for Sega to make arenas of these levels because they already made HD versions of them. Sonic and the Secret Rings. Dinosaur Jungle, which again, we just saw a remaster of in Racing Cross Worlds. And Night Palace, because that level is really cool. Unleashed. Rooftop Run, Dragon Road. I think it'd be cool to see, especially see these levels in a fighting game. They wouldn't just make for cool backgrounds, but maybe you could have a part where you chase enemies across the giant winding Dragon Road in Dragon Road. Or you could fight enemies while climbing up a clock tower or something. That'd be cool. Black Knight, Misty Lake, which is just for the music, honestly, and Camelot Castle. I mean, it's a castle. That's just a really cool set piece. And then there's a whole falling bridge and statue and everything. That'd make for a really cool fighting game, I think. Yeah, I guess you could include Molten Mine instead of Misty Lake, but maybe you could toss that in as DLC. There are a lot of good levels in Black Knight. Sonic Colors, Tropical Resort, and Starlight Carnival. Pretty self-explanatory. People like them, they look cool. I'm not including Planet Wisp because I don't really like Planet Wisp. Generations, just Sonic and Shadow. There aren't any original levels in Sonic and Shadow Generations, but there is the white space, which was included in Cross Worlds, so let's include that as a fighting arena. Maybe you could have the giant Black Doom moon thing floating in the background. Sonic Frontiers, I'm going to say Kronos Island and Ares Island. Because we need to throw in a desert area, and it's the best island in the game. We're not throwing in Chaos Island, though. We don't talk about Chaos Island. So yeah, that was just my quick thoughts on what I'd want to see out of a Sonic fighting game. There are some other things I'd like to throw in, such as, the whole rival mode from Racing Cross Worlds. I think that would be really cool for a fighting game. Right before you fight your rival, you get a real speech from him, and then you'd have multiple rounds. So basically, it would play exactly the same as Cross Worlds, but a fighting game instead of a racing game. You could also have an online mode, of course, where you could fight other people. And And I mentioned earlier having a tag team mode. I think that would be cool. It doesn't even necessarily need to be a multiplayer. You could have it online, you could have it multiplayer, but you could also have it just as a single player thing where, kind of like how in Sonic 2, you can play as Sonic, but Tails is right next to you the whole time, and you can fight against two other opponents. You could mix and match duos, but maybe you could already have some defaulted. Like Sonic and Tails would be a tag team. Knuckles and Rouge, maybe Shadow and Omega, Vector and Espio, Mighty and Ray, Amy and Styx, Eggman, Metal Sonic, etc., etc. So yeah, just a quick little video, but I think we definitely need a Sonic fighting game at some point. Also, it's time to tell you what, I guess if you saw the thumbnail, you know what I want to call the game. Sonic Champions. I think that's a cool title, and it's pretty simple but straight to the point. I remember when everyone thought Sonic Blitz was going to be a fighting game. But yeah, that's all for now, and remember to stay way past cool.